Welcome to Unleashed at Work and Home, the show dedicated to helping veterinarians, vet techs, dog trainers, shelter and rescue workers, pet sitters, and all the other animal crazy pet professionals manage their stress and find more joy. I'm your host, Colleen Pilar, and I'm thrilled you're here with us today. Make sure you hit the subscribe button on your favorite app so that you won't miss a single episode. This episode is brought to you by our free community, the Circle of Resilient and Thriving Pet Professionals. If you like the ideas shared here, then you're invited to continue the conversation with other lifelong learners in the community. You can find out more at colleenpilar.com. It's the perfect place for you to learn cool stuff, feel good, and take action to create the life you love. Come join us. Welcome back to Unleashed at Work and Home. My guest today is Rachael Magee, and Rachel's a dog trainer in Hawaii with Dog's Choice. Well, not with Dog's Choice. She is Dog's Choice. It is her business. Welcome today, Rachael. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
I'm delighted to have you here. I've wanted to talk to you for a while now because you and I had spoken in the past about your work in Hawaii and how it's not exactly the same as all other areas in the United States. And you're not actually originally from the United States. So I want to start way back at the beginning and then we'll journey around and see. But I love just the differences of how different regions have different traits. So first off, tell us how you wound up in Hawaii and where did you start? So give us the short version of that and then I'll ask more details.
Okay. Short version. I'm originally from England, born and raised in England. And then I traveled through work and ended up meeting my now husband. And he's actually from Ireland, which is where my other part of my family are from. And he had family in Maui, and we ended up coming here to see if this could be a possibility for us. So that's the short of that. I had never been to Hawaii before. I hadn't lived in America, so it's all very new. It was then. We're now 12 years in.
12 years in. 12 years in. Thank you. So, so that is different. So what is one major difference you've seen, just between growing up in England versus living in Hawaii?
Yeah.
It doesn't even have to be dog related. Just like something you're like, that's different.
The biggest, most obvious thing would be the weather, which is it's part of the draw for sure. And living on such a remote island where I'm surrounded by the ocean, that is different. England is also a small island, but I was not close to the ocean. So that is very different. And it's actually very comforting for me, which is not everybody's experience when they come out here. But I have found it very comforting. So that's a big difference. The weather would be the biggest one. The small town I grew up in, there's actually similarities between the kind of tight-knit smaller communities here. So there are actually similarities also, which was surprising.
Tell me about the comforting aspect. What's comforting about it?
I don't know why, because I traveled for a few years prior to us settling here, and I'd always found a lot of wonderful experiences with different places, different cultures, but never quite anywhere I could feel I could settle. And when I came here, that was very different to me. And part of that, which you may ask about, was my connection to the Maui Humane Society. Finding my passion. I wasn't working with dogs prior to coming here. So this didn't just open up a new way of living day to day. It actually introduced my now career to me. So there could be multiple factors there, but I feel very confident in the fact that I can see the edge of our island, that it doesn't feel as overwhelming as when I have visited the mainland, and it goes on for forever, which is amazing. And also that I find, I feel very isolated. It's very strange. It's kind of the opposite of I've had some people feel isolated on an island. I feel the opposite. I feel isolated with never-ending masses of land ahead of me, as opposed to being able to see my little home. And yeah, I can't explain it logically, but that's what my brain makes of it.
I love it. I love it. And I think logically is overrated. It's all about how things feel. Like it really is how things feel.
Yeah.
So you said moving to Hawaii is what brought you into your career. And one of the questions I always love to ask people is like when you were 10, what did you think you wanted to do when you grew up?
That's such a great question. I don't feel like I've had that question asked for a very long time. Maybe since I was 10 and people were asking what I wanted to do. Um, I wanted to do um, the most glamorous thing I wanted to do was to be an air stewardess. And I think that was because of the travel involved. And also it was a bit more glamorous when I was growing up as far as, the uniforms and the whole, idea of it. But I also had very mundane things like I I liked my toys I played with was a post office, working in a post office, checkout, at a supermarket. Uh, very just yeah, very mundane but just practical jobs. So I think the air stewardess was the most glamorous one. Um, I funnily enough, even though I've always grown up around animals, I never made the connection that I could work with them, that was a career that hadn't been modeled to me in any way. I was into art, so I liked doing, anything that was creative. But yeah, that's the air stewardess is kind of the main one I remember.
And you grew up with animals, but you didn't see working with them as a career. Tell me a little bit about the animals that you had.
My first love of my life was my big Roddy Chili. Um, she was bigger than me. I just remember growing up with her and just her being my best friend and just being so connected with her. And my mom had cats. She always had cats. They came before myself, before any dogs. So there were always cats around too. They were more, they're cats. They're independent. They weren't so happy that I came along and took some of her attention. So uh, we had a different relationship. But the dogs that have come through my life, they were always very special to me. We had parrots at one time. We had fish, but my connection was always with the dogs. That was where I understood. I felt that we had something. Now I can see we had something deeper. I don't know what I thought as a child. I just thought they were amazing.
Okay, so take me from the 10-year-old who'd like to be an air stewardess, and then what did she do? What jobs did she have between then and now?
Oh gosh. Um, I'll run through this quickly because I've tried a lot of things. Um,
Which
uh,
probably makes you really creative and good at your job now.
everything from again the mundane, just type of factory work, shop work, work to have money to be able to live. To then what got me out of England was I got into working as a stewardess on super yachts, and that came about through looking into travel options for work. Again, I knew I needed to earn money, whatever I was doing, to be able to leave the UK. Um, and I didn't want to necessarily work on the big cruise ships, so I literally stumbled across super yachts. I had never heard of that term before. I didn't know about the industry, but I knew that it did the job of getting me out of the UK and paying quite nicely to get me out of the UK. So then I worked a few more jobs simultaneously to be able to save up to afford to make the trip to the south of France. I don't speak French, so that was that was just gutsy youth that driving me to move on and get out of the UK. And I set up, but I am something that's probably continued throughout and maybe what does help me in my current career is being pragmatic and organized. And so I had set up lots of interviews. So when I got there, I was fortunate to get a job pretty quickly. And then that boat was my first, and it was actually um, docked in the Seychelles. I had never heard of the Seychelles. So I got on a plane and I headed out to the Seychelles and found out it is a very beautiful remote island, and worked there for the I can probably say this now, the King of Qatar. So then I ended up spending a couple of years in the Middle East working for him. And then we moved to Barcelona for a dry dock period. And from there, I had my fun in yachting. It was a lot of fun, but not necessarily fulfilling my needs for deep satisfaction. It's a very fickle kind of world. It's, a lot of money and a lot of artificial happiness is how I felt, and I wanted something more. So we got off at in Barcelona. My now husband had proposed to me there. We got married in Ireland, and
So was
then
he on the super yacht? Like,
he was
is
on the
he
yacht. Yes,
also part of the crew?
he was. Yes.
What does one do as crew on it? Like,
So I
I've
haven't
been on a boat.
I know.
That's the best I've done. I haven't even taken a cruise. So just tell me, like, what if one is
So the Instagram pictures and videos that people like to share makes it very glamorous, and there are absolutely glamorous parts of it, being on a beautiful boat in the ocean, going to fun places, water sports and sun and beautiful food and drinks, and but the reality of it is also that you live on the boat and you are on 24/7. You are, as a stewardess, you are waitressing as well as cleaning, um, ironing, vacuuming patterns into carpets. That every time somebody has just, you know, taken a piece of tissue to blow their nose, wash their hands, everything is reset. So it's I did get to be creative in flower arranging and table setting. I really enjoyed those creative pieces, but it's the majority is like housekeeping. Yeah.
okay?
Mhm.
And you did that for a few years?
I did that for a couple of years. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So you and he meet each other on the boat, and you decide, well, the boat, the yacht, the super yacht, and then you decide we are ready to move on.
Yes.
Now what?
We had a toss up between Hawaii and Australia, because my dad lives in Australia and he had family in Maui. Um, he hadn't been to Australia. I hadn't been to Hawaii. So we just put out our resumes and we went where the work was. And the work took us to Sydney. So we ended up there. And then after a deciding that the boat we were currently working on was not a great fit, and wanting to leave, I had a working visa that was particularly for the boat, and so I was asked to leave Australia because I no longer had a visa current. And so we then came to Maui, and so yeah, I'd at that point too, I'd kind of hit a bit of a rock bottom, in the sense that I didn't know what I was going to do with my career. We weren't coming to Hawaii to work on boats. That was not an option. My dad had also just been diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer, and I was moving away. And so when we came here, I was very, very much just, we'll see what happens. I have no plans. Life is unpredictable. And I am very fortunate to get this opportunity to come here, and I have no idea what I'm going to do with that. And that's how we landed here.
Okay. So here you are on a little island, and you can see the ocean all around you, and you don't have a job, but he does at the time
Yes,
that you arrive.
yes, he has dual citizenship. His mother is from New York, and so he was born and raised in Ireland. But he has dual citizen,
Okay.
so he came here and he started working on the boat, the tourist boats, the whale watching boats. He's an engineer, marine engineer.
Okay. So there you are in Hawaii. What did you do?
So I, because I'm from England, I I had to apply for a working visa and my green card at the time. So when I first came here, I didn't have any of those, and so I wasn't able to legally work. So my awesome brother and sister-in-law used to volunteer at the Maui Humane Society, and they knew by this point I'd gone many years without a dog, and I was that obsessive lady that like sees anyone else's dog and is just cannot stop looking. It's gushing. Can I please, like, is it okay if I say hi to your dog? Because oh my God, like I haven't had a dog in my life for too many years. So they knew this, and it was evident, and so they suggested that I go and volunteer at the Maui Humane Society. I had never been into an animal shelter before. All of our rescues, um, all of the dogs growing up were rescues, but they had come to us through various means, or my mom had gone to the shelter. I had never stepped foot in one. So I gave it a go. I went down. I figured after all the years of indulgence in yachting, it was really important to give back. And what better time, well, I couldn't work, to go and give it a go. So that's how I started volunteering at the
And that was pretty soon after you arrived, or a while after? Like, you've been there 12 years, so when approximately?
That was pretty soon. I'd say like maybe a few weeks in, a month
Okay.
max. It was pretty soon. Yeah.
Okay. So there you are. You're a volunteer,
Mhm.
and you are, that suddenly becomes a career choice. How did that happen?
um, yeah, that it wasn't evident at first that would be successful. Because I went and I had every volunteer that I've met. You have the same desire when you go, which is I'm going to walk and help get out every single dog. And so you try that, and you can only do so much because you're only one person, and the shelter is very busy and hectic, and you're new, and you have many skills to learn. And so I would walk as many or hang out with as many dogs as I could until I was literally in tears because it was very heartbreaking. And then I would leave, and then the next day I would go back and I would do it again. And my husband let me know I didn't have to do this if I didn't want to, but I very much wanted to, because I had now seen this need that I had never been exposed to before. And so I built up my resilience to keep going until I could actually make a day there. and I made great connections with people. I found that thing I was looking for. I didn't know I was looking for, but everywhere I thought something was innately wrong with me, that I couldn't keep one job down, that I was very I felt very what's the word I'm looking for? I was unsettled. And yet I found people that I connected with, especially being here and not knowing anybody. I didn't have a social group, so it became my social group, my family. The work that I saw everybody doing with the animals was so inspiring to me. And so I kept going back, and I kept going back. And then um, my work visa came through just as an opening came up for an adoption counselor. By then, I'd been volunteering 6 months. And so I applied, and I got the job. And that's kind of the rest is history. I mean, I worked in various roles throughout the shelter, but 8 years was how long I worked full time at the Maui Humane Society. So that, and I mostly worked with all different animals in various roles, but I always still had a stronger connection to the dogs. And so that's what led me to want to do more, to be able to help them. And that's how I ended up looking into professional dog training, and how I could learn more to be able to help more dogs.
And so now you're no longer with the Humane Society, and you have a business that's dog training focused.
Yes.
And so tell me how. So you went from being the adoption counselor, coordinator. Did you say counselor? I don't remember what you said.
Yes.
Counselor.
Adoption counselor. Pet.
And then you got interested in the behavior, so you started learning about behavior, and then you created this business where you now do as a career. You are a trainer. Um, Tell me about that piece. Like, what is different for you now, being outside the shelter in a supportive kind of role as opposed to having been in it the whole time?
Yeah, it's very different. The biggest challenge for me in the beginning was the isolation. I went from a team, like I said, they were everything. My family, socializing with everybody outside of the shelter, um, having feedback, having shared goals, everything as a team. And so when I left, um, it was very different to be by myself. And that has kind of been um, one of the biggest challenges over the last couple of years. I'm now in year 3 of my business. And I had lots of connections through the shelter, so that was a huge support for me moving forward with a new business. But still, the day to day operations, I've never run my own business before. There was a lot to learn, and so yeah, it was kind of different, just not having that team around me, kind of going it on my own. But through that, I was then able to really take on mentors remotely, and I don't feel as isolated anymore because of this wonderful online community that we have with other mentors, mentorship programs. um it's just I don't know if it was always like that, or if it was just because of COVID and everybody moving to remote training. But that was huge for me because we are very isolated out here, and there's a handful of trainers on Maui, but um, really not the same kind of community as I see elsewhere. And so, if I didn't have that remote access to all of these wonderful humans around the world, then yeah, it would be even harder. So, it's I'm
It
thankful.
tends to be a very lonely profession. I think
Mm,
that's something that many people don't realize when they're
mhm,
getting into it, because it is frequently dog trainers are solopreneurs. Like I have my business, and a few other trainers and this and that, but that piece of that, what the big change for you was you didn't have the team to get feedback, to share ideas, to share goals, to share momentum and
mhm.
enthusiasm, and to pick each other up. What has been most helpful to you in terms of doing some of this on your own and tapping into your own strength when you do find yourself a little bit like it's just me, as opposed to like, oh, okay, together we are doing this when it's you doing this. What helps you?
It's a great question. I think I think leaning into the creative freedom of being just you and your business. And for me anyway, that doesn't happen overnight. um, but when I realized that, when I got to my husband helped actually at one point when I was having a particularly hard time on myself, for I should be doing this, I should be doing that. Um, you're a really hard boss to yourself. Like your boss, you should have a word with your boss. She's really mean. And I'm like, you know what? That is hilarious because I am my boss. So I can set my own cadence, my goals. I don't have to necessarily have arbitrary like structures or set time frames or for what should be, what it looks like. And part of that is a lot of our conditioning in life, in all industries, I'm sure. So once I could release some of that and focus on, yes, it's important to be aware of what everybody else is doing, and in our industry, the thing I love the most is that we're continually learning, and also not to get too far into what other people are doing and give it a go. Like just kind of lean into what we teach with our dogs and our human clients of trial and eval. Let's give
Mhm.
and let's have fun with it and let's see what happens, and use that feedback, use the data you get from trying to see if you're on the track you want to be. And I don't even want to say the right track, because what's right for me is not what's right for somebody else. So just being able to lean into the creativity of being a sole entrepreneur, and yeah, that I don't know if that answered your question or if I'm just
Beautifully. It answered my question beautifully. And I was feeling a little guilty in asking it because I usually warn my guests beforehand that I will attempt not to have a coaching session in a podcast call. And I always wind up asking a question that's just a little bit like on the edge of not really fair to say, okay, we're recording this call. Tell me this. And that was one of them. But thank you. That was beautifully answered. And thank you for being so gracious and sharing all of that with all of us. Um, I love your husband's reframe for you. Like maybe have a little word with your boss, because we tend to be really hard on ourselves. Like in general, people are really hard on themselves. And what I've found in this community is these are people who are doing really amazing work. And their inner taskmaster has such a hard time acknowledging it and being like, wow, great job. Instead, it's like, do more, do better, do this. Um, so I love that by just sort of gently suggesting you have a little chat with your boss and then realizing, oh, wait, I think I know who that might be. There's some freedom there of what do I want? And that is where opportunity lies. What do I want? And I like too when you said, like, is it the right track for me, and not the let me think back to your words you used, because you said, like, I want to make sure it's not like the right choice, but like you said, on the track you want to be on, I think is what you said. And that matters too. Like there isn't a right or wrong. There isn't for any of that. So options and choices. That seems important here. Which I do ask all of my guests to share words with me that are important to them. And you and I talked before we started about the tagline on your business. First off, your business name is Dog's Choice. And then the tagline is empowering choice. And I said I found those words particularly interesting. And I feel like we've just led ourselves right here, like right to this spot of there you were empowering yourself to make choices and recognizing the actual freedom of that as well as the responsibility. So talk to me about that. Empowering choice. What does it mean to you?
so it's how to it's everything. It's a lot of business coaching I've done throughout the years, looking at, what is really important to you, and freedom comes up a lot. Freedom to choose, you know, how you live your life, how you run your business, the balance between your personal life and your business. There's a lot in that. And when I'm working with dogs in particular, and they're humans, but with the dogs, it's seeing that when we are able to give them more choice, to give them more autonomy, that we just see we just they thrive. We see more than maybe we would even consider. We might be looking for a particular behavior or a particular set of skills, but when we're able to allow our dogs that choice to show us what is important to them, then we can be creative in everything we've learned, and we can, have that work for whatever our objective, our goal is. But without allowing them that space, I feel personally, again, I can't speak for everybody, but I feel like we can get stuck. We can lose that creativity. We can lose that forward momentum, because we're just kind of pigeonholing into this is what this should look like. And again, this is like,
Mhm.
I'm learning. I'm letting go of shoulds. So, um, and I feel like that's the same for our human learners too. And so when working with clients and being able to empower them, that here are some options that we can look at, but I really want you to know that I'm not here just to tell you this is what you are going to do. This is what you need to do to get this. This is what you should do. This is how this is. And I feel, again, in my experience thus far, a lot of clients that have come to me that have maybe worked with different teachers in different modalities have maybe felt stuck when they've felt like they've been told to do something and that didn't work. And so they're broken, the dog's broken, the training doesn't work, whatever. We don't move forward from that place. That just feels stifling, and it feels like we're failing, and that doesn't feel good for anyone. So it means so much to me to be able to empower my clients, the humans and the dogs, to have choice, so that we can really make strides, make forward momentum in what matters to them. I mean, it's very unique too. It is such a relationship we have with our dogs that I would never tell anybody, unless there's safety concerns involved, that this is what living with a dog needs to look like. I like learning from other people what is important to them, and watching their dogs and seeing what is apparently important to their dogs. I feel like we can find a common ground, and we can actually have better success. And even success, how we define success, is so personal. So it matters a lot to me.
Yeah, it really does. Can you tell us about a dog who got some choices and made some choices that made a difference for that dog?
Oh gosh. There's a few. I still volunteer at the shelter, so I think of I'm thinking of clients, but I'm even thinking of just short interactions with dogs at the shelter in
any example counts, because it's
but one that's my funniest that just came to mind was actually kind of a mix of both. It was a client, but it wasn't their dog. They were fostering a dog from the shelter, and this dog had he had a few different issues at the shelter. I don't remember all the specifics. He was a beautiful big blocky head guy. He was a little older, so one that would they tend to sit around the shelter. And so this lovely couple were fostering him, and they had dogs before, and they were doing a great job. But one of the issues they were having with him was, they had a few different issues, but him being reactive to other dogs, and also counter surfing, and there was some barking and different things within the home. So just through a remote session, we worked probably about 4 sessions together, and noticing that when I was encouraging foraging work, that he wasn't using his nose, just like dropping a food on the floor, he wasn't using it. And they told me that, oh no, this dog's nose is broken. He can't smell anything. Like you put something right in front of it, like he cannot find it unless you're putting it to his mouth. So they kind of were wanting to lean away from doing any nose work because his nose is broken. Whereas that kind of had me want to work more with his nose, because I wanted to build that skill. And we hadn't had anything from the vet to say he's got a broken nose. So we started working, and we started doing more and more foraging. And even though there are all these other issues, the theme was focusing on that, so that he was able to rebuild the muscles in his nose and be able to work that, and also kind of naturally helped with some of the other issues that were going on, not needing to be counter surfing, obviously management and everything in place as well. But and then a few things we found out. One of them, when I was watching him walk around the house, noticing how he navigated was a little off. We started to do some mat work, and it really helped him to navigate going from like one place to another place. And he was using these almost like the floor is lava and we're going from station to station. So I asked them to just check out. He also was more reactive when it was darker, or startled easily. And so asked him to get a checkup with the vet, and turned out that he couldn't see. He was almost completely blind. So once we knew that, again, I still really wanted to lean on his nose work because he has one of his senses is no longer there, or hasn't been. We just nobody realized. And I remember them telling me that they were so excited one time. They were sitting on the couch and he started frantically sniffing, and they're looking like, what is it? What's there? And sniffing and starts to, kind of nudge through the cushion covers and like really insistent, trying to tell them there's something under there. And they lifted it up and they found a peanut. And they were like, this dog couldn't smell anything. And now he's like scenting this tiny peanut, deep within our couch. And and I share that. I don't know why that one came to my mind, but just the challenges throughout. We were going with what he was able. We were meeting him where he was at and seeing what he was interested in, but also not ruling out, oh, his nose is broken, he now cannot do all these things. Just getting more creative in how we can go about offering foraging opportunities and having that kind of tactile place settings for him to navigate, getting runners, yoga mats in the house, which helped him because we have it's a warmer climate, so we have a lot of beautiful but very slippery hardwood or tile flooring here too. So just kind of it was like multiple things, but just with very few tweaks to their kind of day-to-day, which was also important because I wanted to be able to meet them where they were at and give them options of what, we could look at and have them choose what made sense for their schedules that they both were working. So their schedules of time they had, their bandwidth, looking at, when we have extra bandwidth, when the humans are low on that and what we can do. And just like I said, for a few sessions and he was doing great. There was, normal counter surfing. He was able to navigate the home at night and not have issues. He was able to use his nose and enjoy more foraging, and they just saw a decrease in the kind of anxious behaviors and an increase in him being able to settle and be more stable. And I believe they ended up adopting him. So,
awesome. That's the best ending.
Yes. So I don't know if that specifically answers that, but that
it does. It's lovely. It's lovely. And I think it ties the words together so well. The empowering choice, like that more was available both for the dog and for the family as a result of having choices and actively making them.
Mm-hmm.
And that I think often we don't even see our choices. And sometimes when we do, we're very busy going, oh, but I couldn't. And to actually feel empowered to explore your choices and to act on them. It kind of goes back to what you said before about, just sort of getting feedback, doing something and getting feedback and then iterating and trying something different. That in your business, you're able to do that in ways that you enjoy. And that is kind of the ultimate of empowering choice. So that's a perfect example of that. I have no idea how long we've been talking, but it's been very, very fun. And I feel like I might be running long and I don't want to take up your whole day here, but I still have more questions. So I'm going to ask you, if you could have a magic wand, and with your magic wand, you're going to grant a wish. You get to decide what the wish is, but you're going to grant a wish for all pet professionals. Like you are just going to bestow this upon us. What are you going to give us?
Oof. You're like the queen of the deep questions that I love animals. So my brain's like, what am I going to grant with my magic wand? Other than the ability to read Doug's minds, because that would be amazing.
Hey, we'll take it.
I would like to grant everybody with the gift of knowing that they're enough, like truly knowing that.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that because I'm also on that journey still. And I don't know if it's a forever journey, but I think in this current world where we have access to so much information, it's a gift and it can kind of be a bit of a curse too, in the sense that there's a lot of comparison. I might just be speaking for myself, but the more I learn and the more I do this work, I don't feel I'm alone in this, that we can often do nothing because we are so paralyzed in fear of not doing it right. And again, I'm not talking about anything that might cause any harm to any humans or animals. But in general, I think, we learn from being able to have that trial and eval, to be able to learn the core information that we need, and then feel that we are able to actually actually start and make a difference. And I feel like for myself, I took so long to get going because I was just paralyzed in fear of not being enough. And I see so many amazing trainers, a lot of my mentors that are just doing such amazing work. And I would feel like, well, why I'm not them? We already have met those amazing humans. So why would anybody need someone else? But we do need other people. It's a big world, and we have our own communities, and we have our own, like you said, even what we bring from other careers we've had, from our own life experiences. And so I think just being able to feel like we're enough, and then we feel empowered to do, and then we make waves, ripples to start. And then, and I just, that would be a gift I would like to give.
That would be a gift I would love for you to give. And that is a gift I would love to receive. Like that is the work I've been doing personally, and also the work I've been doing professionally as a result of having done it personally. But like, I don't know that there is an endpoint for it, but what you described about being paralyzed with fear and always wanting to do it right, and being, that was me. That has been me.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm much more empowered to take an action and have it not work and be like, oh, okay, learn something, try again. So yes, when your wish filters out and integrates into all of us, we are all going to be better as a result of that. And thank you for that. So if people wanted to learn more about you and your work, how could they do that?
Yeah. They can visit my shiny new website, which now has more resources, which I'm continuing to update. That's dogschoice.com. And I also have a weekly blog post. Again, can sign up online for that. I have a reactivity guide, and I'm working on a live workshop that I'll be putting up. All the details for that will be on the website, and future digital courses, and obviously to be able to work with me one-on-one, I do have remote training, and all of that is on the website. So that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Well, I will link all of that in the show notes. And thank you so much for talking with me today. It's been really fun talking to you. And thank you for humoring me as I took a few detours and side journeys.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you for all the work that you have helped me with over this past year. I always love chatting with you.
Thanks for listening to Unleashed at Work and Home. I invite you to come learn more at colleenpilar.com, where you can be steady, be strong, and be long.